Can Auburn's offense be top 25 in scoring? Hugh Freeze needs an offensive revival. Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for turning us up and turning us on. We'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend Kyle Rush from The Barn. Visit thebarnauburn.com for if you need your Auburn fix. They're doing great work over there. Part of that great work, Kyle, was observing practice this morning. So we're going to talk about some notes from practice and offense in particular, and where Auburn needs to be on offense to move things forward. In the second half of the show, we'll deal with it from a national perspective, but let's dial in here. Lots of good notes from Auburn's offensive practice today. Lance, our guy Lance, observed some team period, some one-on-one drills. The receivers seem to be just as good as advertised, Kyle.
Yep.
But it's got to translate to Saturdays, and Auburn has to score points. It particularly has to translate in the red zone. Before we started recording, we noted some statistics that we think are important for our listeners to understand. Auburn was 71st in scoring offense last year, but 28th in total yards from scrimmage. That means they're moving the ball, but they're not getting in the end zone. Auburn has to close the gap there and bring that scoring offense closer to the total yards. What do you think about Auburn finishing off drives? They could not finish, and in key moments, and it killed Hugh Freeze's offense last year and probably cost them 4 or 5 games.
No, for sure, especially when you get into the red zone. Look, a couple of things that you look to fix that is number one is the offensive line. When you get into the red zone, they know you got to run the ball. They know you got to run the ball. Can you be able to punch the ball in when you have to and when the field gets tight? And then, hey, can you execute and throw the football when the field shrinks like that and the boundaries become an extra defender? You got to beef up the offensive line on both for both of those scenarios. And it seems like the early yields from fall camp are that, the offensive line may be as advertised, especially Xavier Chaplin. I've heard multiple people talk about how impressive he was. You may remember this, Mike. Last year around this same time, we were convinced Percy Lewis was going to be the guy. And then we started to hear that there was we heard it. I don't know if you remember this. We heard it as quote unquote communication issues. And basically what it meant was he didn't have a clue what he was supposed to be doing. And the guy beside him would have to be telling him, who he needed to be blocking and when he needed to be blocking them. That's not the case. It seems like Xavier Chaplin is sort of as advertised, which is really big. And then what's even crazier about the offensive line, I fully expected Too Tall to be your right tackle, and he's now your backup left tackle, and Mason Murphy beat him out. So you got to be a pretty good player to come in and unseat a guy that started for 2 years. I think all in all, the offensive line had to be one of the big keys that you fixed. And early returns seems like they fixed them.
Giving the quarterback more time to process, go through his reads, and find the right guy definitely will help your scoring offense, particularly in the red zone. Auburn, look, a lot has been made of this offensive line, Kyle. Now, I asked a simple question on our Sunday Live about players that truly busted out since Hugh Freeze have been here. And my statement was, look, guys, I can't think of a guy who came in really highly hyped and was a bust. And I was thoroughly rebuked, and people said Percy Lewis. First, they brought up Percy Lewis and saying, hey, he had a ton of expectations on him and didn't pan out. And, at the end of the day, Auburn has recruited at a high enough level that if play calling is dialed in, we should see this improve quite a bit. Now, there's an aspect to the scoring offense that nobody talks about, kind of flies under the radar, but having Alex McPherson back at kicker will improve that scoring as well. Hugh Freeze, in our one-on-one, talked about a lot of the abnormal things they did offensively because they didn't have a kicker. and they couldn't
Yeah.
trust that they could make a 38-yarder when they needed it. So they rolled the dice on 4th down, and it didn't work. It cost
Yeah.
Auburn at least 2 games last year. So that's your bowl game. And Hugh Freeze thinks that it could have cost them 4 games last year. You know, it sounds crazy. It sounds like he's making excuses, but it's true. It's factually accurate that with good special teams, Auburn scores maybe 6 or 7 more points per game, and that would have been the difference in winning possibly 5 of the 7 games you lost.
Yeah, it totally changes. You mentioned it. It totally changes decision making. It totally changes play calling. Used to once you got across the 50, you didn't really have to gamble a ton. You could be a little bit safe because you're always going to walk away with at least 3 points. And it totally changes the way you have to do things. Now, I think Alex, you're listening to this on Tuesday. Yesterday, I don't think he practiced yesterday. I don't think it's anything serious. I think they're just trying they're trying to make sure he doesn't get over, you don't push it, I guess, basically kind of continue to ease him in. So I still think no matter what, they should be better on better place kicking in general. But you're right. You're 100% right. A healthy Alex, which he's been for most of this camp. And if it can hold true, at least those automatics, those, 40 yards and in, you feel like that's going to be 3 points, like with Alex out there. So that's another thing that helps that scoring average go like crazy. I just think about that Missouri game. You drop a touchdown, a wide open touchdown pass, you miss a field goal. Now it's a completely different ball game. You know what I mean? Like if you make that field goal, who knows what happens, but it's a completely different game. And then we all know how that game ended. So that's definitely offensive line, special teams. If you correct those 2 things, you should definitely see that scoring percentage per game go up and up and up.
Before we get to the break, let's talk for a second about who's going to be doing the scoring. Obviously, Cam Coleman is an absolute monster. The Phoenix City product to turn in 598 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns last year. I got to believe he's going to be a double-digit touchdown guy. Auburn didn't put a big focus on getting him the ball early in the season, but over those last 3 or 4 games, we saw his production really, really explode. Over 50% of everything he did in the last 3 or 4 games. So, obviously, Cam is going to be catching fades and every kind of ball you can throw. As it seems now, Malcolm Simmons is going to play.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know in the first open practice he was rolling out there with the threes, so some punishment was doled out, although Auburn is mum on the internal handling of that situation there. But I got to think he's going to be good for 7 to 10 touchdowns as well this year. And then there's Eric Singleton, who, hear me out on this one, I can see him plays from outside the 30-yard line straight into the end zone.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's almost an embarrassment of riches. They have Malcolm taking carries out of the backfield too. Like they're going to get him his touches. He's just what's that?
Jet sweeps?
No.
Okay,
he had. I mean, he did take a couple of jet sweeps. There has been some jet sweeps, and I don't think they've been very successful. But there have been plays where he's actually taken ball like snaps as a running back. Like in other words, they're trying to do everything they can to make sure he can get touches. But look, Cam Coleman he didn't practice today, not because he was hurt or anything. It's like one of those, okay, you've put in a really good couple of days. Let's sort of let some other guys get some reps. He's just going to be that good, man. He is going to be, I really do think he's going to be your 1,000-yard receiver. Once he was healthy last year, they could really, really feed him the rock. And you could see that he could do it when everybody knew he was going to get the ball. So if he can be that guy from the game one and be healthy and stay healthy, boy, I mean, that's another thing. That's check box number 3. You got receivers in the red zone that you can trust, and it's not just one. You can trust multiple guys in multiple different ways. I mean, that's when Hugh talked about those crucial situations and he talked about red zone scoring. You've done several things in theory that should help those, and we've talked about all of them just now.
Cam is going to be a monster. You mentioned him being 1,000-yard receiver. 1999, Ronnie Daniels was Auburn's last 1,000-yard receiver.
That dude was a beast.
Yeah, he was a beast. We had some guys come close. Sammy Coates had a really good season. Darvin Adams came up just a few yards short. If we had a college football playoff back then, he probably breaks 1,000 yards. Seth Williams had I think 864 yards. There have been a few guys who have come close. Last year, Keandre Lambert-Smith, if Auburn makes a bowl game, he's 1,000-yard receiver.
Yep.
But seeing a guy do it in the regular season, I think would mark the turn for this offense. Now, you had some other interesting stats that I want to get to that paint a broader picture of where Auburn will be nationally if they can up scoring. We'll talk about that right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of the Auburn Express is brought to you by our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across the street from the Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to Renfro's Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. This episode of The War Report is brought to you by our friends at The Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, The Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. When you place your order, let them know The War Report sent you. Our guy Richard is dropping a little something special in there for our Auburn Express listeners. We want to thank our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. Summer is here. It's going to be here for at least another month. But when the fall gets here and it gets great outside, you want to be outside grilling with your family or just staying in shape with some Golden's Cast Iron weights. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Last but certainly not least, this segment is brought to you by friends at setsforsociety.ai. Get to know yourself with Sets for Society. They have custom personality assessments that help you learn more about how you think, how your coworkers or your partners think, and how you can work together to achieve common goals. Visit setsforsociety.ai today to get your custom personality assessment started today. Get to know yourself with Sets for Society. Let's jump back in here. Before we started recording, we talked about the national picture. Yep. And what does it look like for the teams making the playoffs in terms of scoring? Ole Miss was the third best scoring team in the country, Kyle, and they missed the playoff. An absolute egregious offense by Lane Kiffin and the Rebels. I don't know if you've ever been to Oxford. It's actually one of the worst places on earth. Yeah, everything there smells like feet. But
all right, let's go.
Auburn has to. I don't know that score on an Ole Miss level, but certainly they just need to get north of 30. Talk to me, man, about what it looks like if this Auburn team can average 30 points or more in P4 play.
Yeah, so Auburn was just shy of 28 points a game last year. And that put them all the way down at 71. And if you can score, we just talked about different items that should help Auburn. 6 more points a game. 6 more points a game puts you at like 34 points per game, and that puts you inside the top 20 in scoring offense in the country. It doesn't seem like Auburn, if you look at the way they move the ball, this is another thing that's crazy. Auburn was, we talked about 28th and 71st, which is it's 28th in total offense, 71st in scoring offense. No team that was ahead of them in total yardage was remotely close to 71st in scoring offense. So in other words, the guys that move the ball typically score. So what Auburn did was kind of impressive last year. Like it's impressively bad to not be able to score. But the thing is, you don't have to move that much to be able to be in that, like you said, the playoff scoring offense caliber team. They're not that far off. So it only takes 6 points a game, and you're right there in the conversation. And I think Auburn was probably closer to that than they were further away from it, just because of bonehead mistakes, not being able to make a play in a clutch situation, or missing kicks. It just feels like Auburn's right there. And with all these pieces, maybe you can actually convert and get there and be in that top 20 and top 25. I'll take top 30. I mean, top 30 is 32 points a game last year. I'll take that. I think that would put us in a really good spot.
It would put Auburn in an amazing spot if the defense holds serve from last year. So
Yes.
To kind of pull this together for our listeners on pod, especially so they don't have the visual, your first loss versus Cal, you lost 21-14. Throw 7 points on that, Auburn potentially wins that game. Now there's a causality to moving the ball. So if Auburn scores 21, Cal may not, because Auburn is keeping the ball longer. Then you have Arkansas 2 weeks later. You lost that game 24-14. Again, you score 7 more points. You take some points off the board for them. You potentially win that game. Then there's Oklahoma 27-21. Toss 7 points on that. That's a win. You had Georgia 31-13. I talked about that fourth quarter play ad nauseum. It was a 10-point game going into the fourth quarter. If you score on that drive, you got a 1-score game. And
if you get 2 yards on that play, who knows what happens from there?
Oh my goodness! You have Missouri. This one probably hurts the most.
Most by far.
Yeah, because of the whole Brady Cook storyline. He resurrected himself from the dead. Literally, he came back. He went to the hospital in an ambulance and came back to beat Auburn in the same 21-17. Again, throw 7 points on that. That's a win. Vanderbilt. A lot gets made of this whole Diego Pavia versus Hugh Freeze storyline, but he actually played terrible in this game.
Yeah, they limited him big time.
Yeah, I mean, they scored 17 points, and I think he was like sub 60% passing. He may have been
sub 50. He may have been sub 50%.
Yeah, I want to say it was worse than that, certainly. But he didn't have a good game, and you lost that one because you couldn't move the ball, not because Diego Pavia killed you. Yeah, he was 9 for 22 for 143 yards. Yeah. 9 for 22. Now, they talk about him rushing the ball. He
averaged like 1 yard a carry or something.
Carries for 26 yards.
Yeah.
Give me a break. He did not beat Auburn. Auburn beat themselves.
Auburn beat Auburn. Yeah, unfortunately, in several of those situations, Auburn beat Auburn. I mean, if you really look at it, several of those situations, Auburn beat Auburn, and I think that's the key that you got to get better at, and hopefully these roster updates and these changes and whatnot, and being a little bit a year older and a year better, hopefully. You can convert it. I just don't think Auburn's that far off, man. I think we just talked it out. I just don't think Auburn is that far off from being exactly where they need to be.
Mind you, Alabama let Diego Pavia do whatever he wanted, by the way. He was 9 for 22 versus Auburn's defense, 16 for 20 for 252, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions versus Kalen DeBoer's defense. And also on the ground, Pavia, 20 carries for 56 yards, no TDs there. But he had a pretty good game versus Bama, and they posted 40 on them, Kyle. 40 points. Auburn gave up 17. Give me a break, man. If the offense does their part, they win, and that's that. Kind of moving down the list here, as I mentioned, this is going to sound like a lot of bug, but then you have the Alabama game where you lost that 28-14 in a game where the defense came up with 4 turnovers on the road. 1 touchdown could have been all the difference in that one. Put a touchdown on the board for Auburn, take a touchdown off the board for Alabama, and who knows what happens at the end. A lot of potential wins there. Nobody ran away from Auburn offensively. So if they can get scoring in a normal, 30 points per game in P4 play, this team might go undefeated.
Yeah, 30 points a game. Now, obviously, you scored 60-something against New Mexico, or whoever, Alabama and A&M. So you got to take those into account too. But yeah, if you can average, I need to look at what it was in SEC play. It was pretty bad in SEC play.
Yeah,
Keep going.
Yeah. While you're doing that, again, only 14 points versus Arkansas. That was your SEC opener. 21 points versus Oklahoma. 13 versus Georgia. I mean, at this point in the season, I mean, you're averaging less than 3 touchdowns per game. 17 points versus Missouri. They landed 24 on Kentucky. I think that was the second best offensive performance in SEC play. 7 points versus Vanderbilt, 1 touchdown versus Vanderbilt. I just can't get over that. You had 43 on Texas A&M, which that went to 4 OTs. So a little bit of an asterisk there. And then only 14 points versus Alabama.
Auburn scored
more play. You were pathetic.
Yeah, Auburn scored 19 points a game in conference games last year.
That is unacceptable.
Yeah,
and
definitely got to be closer to in conference. It looks like Texas A&M led points per game right at 29. So if you can be anywhere in those mid to high 20s, you're going to win way more football games than you won last year.
The question will be, can the defense do what they did last year, be a little better on third down defense, get off the field on third downs, and get the offense more opportunities to score the football? I think Auburn needs to be some over plus 70 plays per game in 2025. You've got to create opportunities for all this high-level talent that you recruited. There needs to be enough to have 1,000-yard receivers, but also 1,000-yard running backs as well. What I think you see this year, Kyle, is that the passing game works well enough that if teams have to respect it, when they hand that ball off to Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb, they're going to be ripping off big chunks of yards, 10 or more. And you'll see him average well over 5.5 yards per carry in 2025.
Don't forget about my boy Omar. Omar's been showing out, man. So I wouldn't be surprised if he don't pop in there and make you smile. So he's going to be a force too. We talked about this before we came on. Running back is slowly becoming. I'm starting to get slowly excited about running backs. We talk about receivers a lot. I'm getting slowly more excited about the running back room.
Yeah, I've been there. Just
you got to have them too.
Fantastic talent all the way around. On our live show Sunday, while we were talking running backs, Damari actually texted me and said that Omar is a dog and that he's definitely going to play this year. So
he said, "Hey, write the story. Omar can play." He was talking to the media. Hey, write the story. He can play.
Well, look, I know one place where they are writing the story, and that's at the Barn. Kyle, I want to thank you for joining me today. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. You just mentioned it. Go to thebarnauburn.com, sign up today, get in. We have practice notes, every single practice that we can have eyes on them. We're breaking it down. And even some of the ones you can't have eyes on, we'll be breaking it down. We'll be breaking it down as well. So jump in, have some fun, and get in the conversation.
Look, great work that you guys are doing over there. There's no other message board we promote here at the War Report other than the Barn. So please go support those who support us. But you can also support us by smashing that super thanks button in the comments after the video. Your financial support helps keep us going here at the War Report. We're on the road for you. We'll continue to be on the road for you this football season. Please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.